What's up, guys? So I'm pretty sure I have that same disease that Drake did in Drake and Josh, to where when he didn't eat fast food, he started to get sick. I haven't eaten fast food in like a week, and I think I'm dying. But before I start this video, I want to shout out Nathan for the Enough hoodie. Go check them out on Instagram. This is the one I'm wearing, but it could be the one you're wearing. But the other day, I was watching my homie play Red Dead Redemption 2, and he mentioned how expensive the guns were versus how much you make over time. And that got me thinking, who was the richest person back then? So I call up my friend Google and I'm like, Shou Shi Yo, Tao Shi Tao Xin Yo De Ren. And I swear to God, they're like,
사뮤엘 브라낭.
and I'm like, you don't say? Wait, what was the last name?
브라낭.
Yep. And apparently, this Samuel Brennan was California's first millionaire after taking advantage of the gold rush. Basically, he was the one selling tools to everyone and owned the only store between San Francisco and the gold fields, even making the equivalent of just over $600,000 in 2 months. That's cool and all, but when you look up not his name, but who was the richest man during the gold rush, it brings up Mr. Brennan. But if we look at this last sentence, it says he once sailed to Hawaii to overthrow the king, a coup that failed. I went to school. I've never heard about this, and you would think with everything that's gone down in the past, a millionaire trying to invade Hawaii would at least be mentioned. But this is the first time I'm even hearing the name Samuel Brennan. So I'm like, you don't try and overthrow a kingdom without someone writing about it. I don't care if it was written in stone. That's something people would remember. So I'm like, Google, Samreu Sing Hawaiians, and I found about 5 different articles online that talked about what Samuel Brennan did with his money. And then a couple of them were telling me about his trip to Hawaii, so I knew I was getting close. You don't tell me about 6 children dying and not about the captain trying to make Hawaii New York 2. Can you imagine a New York 2? I can imagine a Pearl Harbor too, but none of these articles were telling me what I wanted to hear. Apparently he was so rich he bought enough land to start his own town, which is still there to this day, but unless I was reading about someone stabbing the Rock's ancestors, I didn't want to hear it. So I keep looking for anything that mentions someone trying to pull a Christopher Columbus on the Hawaiian people. And hey, if you really think about it, discovering Hawaii by accident is a lot more impressive than discovering America by accident. Dude could have sailed to Russia and we would have been the ones invading Ukraine. But after a while of reading the same thing over and over, I come across this article on the Irish Times website called "The Irish American Who Became the First Millionaire West of the Mississippi." And if you scroll down to this paragraph, it mentions that he sailed to Hawaii where he intended to overthrow the king and proclaim himself governor. It also mentions that his expedition was a disaster that amounted to little more than a bar brawl that took place in the French hotel in Honolulu after he publicly posted the new government's roles each of them would have after the revolution. So basically what happened was this New Yorker washed up on shore and was like, that's where Times Square 2 is gonna go. And by the time they figured out he was actually serious, they were too drunk to take yes or no for an answer. In the end, he sailed back to San Francisco and then tried to do the same thing to Mexico, but ended up losing most of his money to where he couldn't even be buried until his nephew paid the outstanding cost 16 months later. It's almost like you don't try and take over something that wasn't yours to begin with. So there you have it. That's the short story of how some delusional millionaire thought Mexicans and Hawaiians were someone to fuck with. Yeah, guys, don't be a millionaire and think you can claim a territory that isn't yours. See you later in the week. Peace.